Welcome, everybody. It's April 18th, 2023. This is a meeting of the Nevada Unified School District Board of Education. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, the board did meet in closed session this evening, and Vice President Jacobson will report out those items.
Prior to adjourning into closed session, a representative of the legislature, I don't need to read that part. Sorry. We met on 3 items. 1, with respect to every item of business to be discussed in closed session, public employees dismissal, discipline release was information only. 2nd, with respect to every item of business to be discussed in closed session pursuant to Government Code 54956.9, conference with legal counsel, litigation, 3 cases, was information only. And 3rd, with respect to every item of business to be discussed in closed session pursuant to Government Code 54956.9, insurance claim, the board voted to deny the claim. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. Approval of our agenda this evening. It stands as is. There's no changes to the order. I could get an approval of that.
I'll move approval of the order of business for tonight.
Okay, first by Trustee Millerick, a second by Trustee Lametta. All those in favor? Okay, 7-0 and 1 student advisory vote.
I believe so.
All right, our consent agenda. Is there any items to be pulled? Trustee Millerick.
I would like to pull E, F, and G. They're all about air conditioning. And talk to and speak to them right after if we can. It's just a short
Just right
question.
after, okay, yeah. Trustee Gasson? Gasson, sorry.
What did you call me?
Gasson.
Item 14I.
14I, okay. And do you want to move that to discussion action for your item, or is it a quick?
It's just quick.
Okay, it's just quick, all right. And then you do have an update on 14D sitting at your table. It's a pink sheet. It's regarding, just so you updated salary schedules. There's just the cover page, and I think one of the salary schedules is updated, maybe. Yes. So just think of that, be mindful of that as we approve. All right, so we need approval of our consent agenda excluding items E, F, G, and I. And we don't have any public comment, is that correct? Okay.
So move.
Okay. First by Trustee Miller, second by Trustee Gasson. All those in favor? 7-0 and 1 advisory. All right, so since those are quick, we'll move to Trustee Miller first for items E, F, and G regarding the air conditioning at 3 of our school sites.
This is a conversation with Lois Standring. Lois, are you here? Oh, there she is.
Yes, come in.
So thank you for your time. We talked a little bit earlier, and my understanding is, so there's 2 things I want to check is, how are we doing on our overall air conditioning progress across the entire district? And I believe we're near the end, but you're going to tell us, so I don't have to tell you.
Correct.
You know better than I. And then second is the actual San Marin High School. My memory is it wasn't part on our air conditioning plan, but it is actually being managed out of deferred maintenance. It's a replacement to existing systems. It's not the program to put air conditioning on for the very first time. And
Okay,
so
I'll
if you
cover
could
that as I
clarify
go
that for
through
us, I would appreciate that.
So the first priority for the bond money was to put air conditioning where it wasn't. And we will have completed that by the end of this upcoming summer. So the new HVAC installation under Measure G is San Jose was done in 2018. Olive was done in 2019, as was Linwood and Loma Verde. Rancho was done in 2022, and then this summer we'll be doing Novato High School, Lou Sutton, and Hill Education Center. Those schools that have existing HVAC systems prior to the bond, and they're in line to get replaced, San Marin is one of them, as part of the deferred maintenance money that's in the bond, and that's San Marin High School, San Ramon Elementary, and Pleasant Valley will all be 2024 summer, so the plan, that's what you're seeing tonight in your consent packet, the beginning of the plans for that. And then Hamilton will be either 2024 or 2025. And then one last category, which is a to be determined, schools with existing HVAC, with existing life past the life of Measure G. So the ones I just described had existing HVAC, but their life was going to end, and we had the funds within Measure G to take care of it. Sinaloa is outside of that, and we'll have to figure out when the time comes how to replace that system.
Okay, so I think that answers my question, that all of these are bond-funded projects. Some of them were categorized as deferred maintenance,
Correct.
San Marin High School upgrade. Are all three of these upgrades to existing? Is that
For
true?
next summer, yes.
Okay, for next summer. So all-
2024,
And so they
yes.
are coming out of the deferred maintenance category
Correct.
that we set aside for the bond.
Correct.
And then these will, and we have a plan to complete every campus on, that's already been done, that's in process.
As of the end of this summer, every campus will have air conditioning.
Okay. So then the open question not for tonight is, what's the projection for deferred maintenance for mechanical equipment going forward past the life of the bond? And that's a bigger question than we're
Yes.
ready to talk to tonight. So
Correct.
thank you. I'll move items E, F, and G with that clarification.
Okay, thank you, trustee Miller. Moving items E, F, and G. I need a second. Second by trustee Jacobson. All those in favor? Okay, thank you. 7-0 and 1 student advisory. All right, item I, 14I, this is the exhibit update. Trustee Gasson?
Thank you. I just wanted to pull it because I wanted to acknowledge the staff that worked very hard on this, Ellen and Ashley. It's a hard process, and our policies and procedures that we have posted, it's critical information and where we, point people into the direction of what's supposed to be done, so there's consistency and everyone's on the same page with exactly what we're doing. So I wanted to just say thank you, and I think it looks great, and appreciate all the hard work. So I'll make a motion
you.
that we approve item 14I, the exhibit updates.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Gasson, second. Trustee Jacobson is the second. This is 14I. All those in favor? 7-0 and 1 student advisory. Okay. Moving on to our announcements. Hi, Stephanie. You're the only one there.
Hello. Yeah.
The most important.
Okay, so Marin Oaks had a guest speaker today. His name is Anthony Tucker, and he's a motivational speaker who shared his story of growing up in foster care and getting into the NFL, starting a podcast, and becoming an author. He also funded his own company, and he focused on turning roadblocks into opportunities. Also, our art students and class are still working on their dorm murals, and we're very excited/eager to see their final outcome. And Bridges students are going for a tour of College of Marin tomorrow, and we're excited about that. And our WASC welcome reception is this Sunday at 1:30, and we need the support of the district and district families. WASC will be visiting our campus Sunday through Wednesday, and we hope you guys can make it. Thank you.
Trustee Millerick?
I'll be at your WASC open house. Thank you very much for the invitation, and I have no other comments.
Okay. Trustee Pickus?
Nothing.
Okay. Trustee Lametta?
No.
We had spring break, so it's a little. Trustee Gasson?
Actually, I loved spring break. So a couple things. I went to some open houses that were a lot of fun. I loved seeing all the people and kids there. That was great. Oh, I actually also wanted to mention the Sinaloa fields are being torn up, and I love driving by and seeing the great work that's going to be done there. So super excited, as are my girls. Last week we had the North Marin Council PTA meeting, and I participated in Modeling the Way, which is always fun. And we have, I'll put a shout out for San Marin High School's Something Rotten, which is starting this weekend. It is going to start Friday and Saturday at 7 p.m., and then there's matinee on Sunday, and the same schedule the following week. Would love to see folks there. They've done a lot of work. The costumes are amazing. The set is just going to be fabulous, and tickets are available on Eventbrite. So that's Something Rotten at San Marino High.
Oh, good. Thank you. Trustee Mack?
Yeah. Last week I attended the Independent Citizens Oversight Committee, ICOC, for Measure G. We'll be seeing that report tonight. It's a good group. They did a lot of work. Looking forward to giving them thanks for everything they've done. Anyway, it was a good experience. I was glad I went. As well, attended the North Coast Section Board of Governors meeting last week, and some interesting things there, and I'd be interested to get feedback from folks. They're talking about, generally in sports, instead of having rankings for NCS competitions be or seedings, I should say, or I'm sorry, divisions based on past experience as opposed to making it real-time rankings, which it probably is a smarter move. But anyway, that's coming up, so you hear more about that.
Trustee Jacobson?
Thanks. I participated in a meeting with the City of Novato that talked about the ways in which the city is working on their master plan for their parks programs. It's a great relationship between the city and the school district, as we are the groups that help facilitate all of the sports in our city. And that kind of led me to a question. I wondered if we could get an update, Lois, on how the Babe Ruth fields are looking. That was something that was talked about in the past and was getting worked on. Thanks.
I have nothing to report out. So Superintendent Derby?
I just have a couple things as well. We got great coverage in the IJ this week on our robotics team that is at the World Championship, and then they didn't put our chess club again in Ross, but they're there at the Nationals, so that's really great. And we also were mentioned in the IJ about our community schools grant. So these are all really exciting things, and I really commend the IJ for looking for the good things that are happening in our districts and acknowledging us countywide. I think that's terrific. Mike Saisi, where are you? Oh, Mike's in the back. He's Leadership Novato, and they are going to be on May 3rd at 9:30 in the morning. The Family Center at Linwood is being resurrected, and that's so exciting to me because it was a vibrant, fabulous, wonderful center, and now it's coming back to life, and it's because of the project that Mike and his team did. So if you can make it on the 3rd at 9:30, that would just be wonderful. And that's it.
All right, we have our presentation. Before we move on to the presentation, after our presentation is non-agenda public comment, I just want to make sure if you are here to speak on an item not on the agenda or an item on the agenda, please fill out a blue card, which can be at the table over there with Ellen, and she'll bring it up to me, and we'll make sure you get placed appropriately where to speak. And so I do have one for non-agenda public comment. And just a reminder, when you speak to the board for non-agenda, the board does not engage in a dialogue back and forth because the item is not on the agenda. We're here to discuss and take action on items as a board, but the item needs to be on the agenda in order for us to do that. What we can do is direct you to somebody to speak to, a staff member, or have a follow-up with the superintendent. We can do that, but we won't be engaging in a dialogue back and forth. All right, so moving on to, first we'll do our presentation though. Every board meeting we do have a presentation from one of our schools, and tonight is Pleasant Valley's opportunity. And we have Principal Kwan here to this evening, along with some students and teachers.
Okay, good evening, trustees and Dr. Derby. Is it too loud? Oh, okay. So, my fabulous team and Vivian and Gavin, come on up. You can be right next to me. My fabulous team is passing out some items to you, and one thing I want you to do right now is to transport yourself. Imagine you are at trustee school, and the essential standard is common educational acronyms. So you're going to have about 2 minutes to fill out as many of these acronyms that you should know as a trustee. And we're going to walk around as you take this little quiz, just like our students would when they are going into a new unit. Angela. And your time is almost up. It's okay if you didn't know all of them. The important thing is you want to keep learning and finding out. So next, you're going to get a few items. One is a learning map, and the other is the key to your quiz, or your pre-assessment, I should say. So I want you to take your own time to check your own answers. This is a low-pressure situation. Okay? So just take a moment to self-assess. And you had some chocolate with mint in it because mint stimulates the mind. And everyone likes chocolate, so just FYI. And with that, take a look. If you feel confident, show me a 1 quietly. If you're in the middle there, give me a 2. If you feel like you have still a lot to learn and are willing to learn, show me a 3. Just show me on your hands. If you're a 1, you feel really confident about how you did. 2, you're getting there. 3, you got a lot to learn, but you're ready to learn. Awesome. So I'm going to have my fabulous students come talk to you about our learning maps and proficiency-based education that we're doing here in Nevada Unified, and my fabulous team up here has really taken the charge on and has brought to Pleasant Valley. So I'm going to pass it off to Gavin Baxley. You want to walk him through the learning map?
The learning map is a map that is basically a map that can help you learn strategies or help you with any other subject. There are usually 5 to 6 sections. The middle section is the main section you want to accomplish. The sides are the steps to the middle section. We can work with partners on how to work on your learning map. You also have a lot of choices when to work on your learning map and how. You can use whiteboards, we have dice games, we also have Quizlet for vocabulary and or match.
And then Vivian's going to talk to us a little bit more about what the benefits are to our learning maps.
Our learning maps are brilliant. It helps us know what is coming. This is helpful because students can get stressed out not knowing when it's happening. It's also good to know what is happening next. Helps us communicate on how to ask for help. Helps us advocate for ourselves.
Okay, and we're going to show a quick video featuring this fabulous team here and the PBE work we're doing at Pleasant Valley.
My name is Angela Villaluna. I teach 4th grade at Pleasant Valley School, and I'm super excited that NUSD has taken on proficiency-based education and learning for students. I've been a part of the TLT community for Nevada Unified School District, and what it represents for our students is that we've taken all of our standards, we've narrowed them down to the essential standards, which spans across grade levels. And the exciting part about proficiency-based education is that it puts the power in the students' hands to completely be able to advocate and speak to what they need in education to further their understanding throughout their educational careers.
In transitional kindergarten and kindergarten, when we talk about PBE, the exposure for the littles is really the academic language, but also having them exposed to what they need to understand, what they need to know before moving on to kindergarten and first grade. So we've got the learning maps for them that are tied in with the essential standards. And they get an understanding by being exposed to what those look like, what they are learning, so that they have a better grasp of what they need to know in order to move on to the next grade level.
This is my town, Pop-Tart Pizza Land, and it's worth 9 100s, 3 10s, and 8 1s, which is 938, and it's a 3-digit number. This is my town, Ghost Town, and it's 1,000. It's 1,000 and 400s, 6 10s, 4 1s, and it equals 1,464, and it's a 4-digit number.
So what I love about proficiency-based education is that it is student-centered. So often, kids are compared with other kids, but not with proficiency-based education. It is student-centered. It's based on what students know, what they need to know, what they want to know. The one other thing I love about PBE, that acronym, is the progression through the grade levels. Right now, we're doing numbers-based 10, and if I look at all of the learning maps, kindergarten through 5th grade, the vocabulary is pretty much the same in all of them, except it just expands each year. 1s and 10s are 2 words that are on every single learning map. And I, as a teacher, I just love that. I love that I know that my students are just going to build from year to year. Right, guys? Yeah, oh yeah.
So what PBE looks like in 4th grade is we've taken our essential standards and we've placed them all with proficiency scales for teachers and families to be able to focus on. And then we've created learning maps for students, so that way they have them in their binders, they can refer to them during math and language arts lessons. And then as we give students assessments, which most of the teachers are now creating to match those learning maps for students, the students after the assessment can review how they did, they can look at their learning map, and they can further their understanding of concepts by looking at areas that are missing or look at areas where they need to challenge themselves more. So those learning maps also give students the academic language to express to their parents their academic needs and to be able to express where they need extras and challenges.
Shine on, oh baby, shine. Aim high where eagles fly. Shine on, oh baby, shine.
Okay. Thank you so much. Before we wrap up, I just want to say a few things. First off, that as an administrator, this work brings me so much joy, and I truly am so grateful for the most amazing teachers and staff who have taken this initiative on and built this from the ground up. And it truly has made a huge difference in our academic achievement scores. Cass has seen a huge improvement. So we're really excited to see how this makes a difference this year. But so proud of this group of teachers and my staff, of course, and then these amazing kids right here who, as you can see, they brought their learning maps with them and could easily tell you how they are doing in school and advocating for themselves. And they are true leaders in their classroom, and so that makes me so proud as a principal. And then I'm going to open up to questions. Any of you guys want to come on up? They might have questions for you.
So we've learned about the learning maps through our principals coming to present to the board, but to have 2 students bring it to us is even better. So we appreciate you being here tonight and sharing your thoughts about the learning maps and how it benefits you in the classroom. So thank you for doing that. Any other comments, thoughts? Stephanie?
I just have a comment. I think it's really important for the future of our of school, and I think it's really important for us to do to make curriculums and standards to each student. And I think that's something that I've even struggled with. I feel like when it comes to something that's just general and it's you have to know everything, but when it's more individualized, I think it's even easier and it's a more positive school experience for each student. So I just wanted to applaud you guys for that. And yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Is that your learning map? Okay, yeah. You want
This is our current learning map. It's on multiplying fractions.
I can't even multiply fractions now.
What's your next test?
That's your next test. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Thank you, Gavin. Thank you, Vivian. Yeah, and then just one last word from Mrs. V.
As a teacher, I just wanted to express that I've been part of proficiency-based education since we started with the TLT team, and to be able to be part of the process where we created these learning maps, we created the proficiency scales, we narrowed down the essential standards, has been incredible for me to be able to hone in on my teaching and for what my students need as well. I just know for us to be a full proficiency-based education district, it's really important that we make sure we provide time for the teachers to be able to look at the learning maps, look at the proficiency scales, make revisions, because those still need to be made, as well as specific assessments to benefit the students' needs. So we still need more time in order to hone that in and perfect it together as a district. So.
Thank you. And that video you need to share with your whole parent community. Put that out there. We might have to use it for a couple things too. Yeah, it's done really well.
I was thinking that because I think even as a parent, I mean, my kids graduated from there a couple of years ago, and I love seeing this though, because it's something that you can, as a mom or dad, look at and go, okay, exactly what's going on. What are they doing? They can explain what they're doing. I think it's just a whole new way of learning that makes it easier to work as a family together on what's going on and actually seeing it. I still don't like the sticks and the cubes or whatever, though. I still get confused by that. So I don't know if that's still happening, but I could never figure that out.
Kids will be happy to explain.
Well, I've been doing that reading. Maybe I need to switch the table. Okay.
A follow-up on your comment about time, because really that's so much about what it is the time that you have, because there's the planning process at the start of the year and then it's revising and developing as you go. Is that time that's built in for you as teachers? I mean, obviously this is a team effort. Is it built into the year? Is this like pull-out time during the day? What does that look like in terms of practical time that's needed for teachers?
Time has been on our own so far. So more time, if we could have it, as a district grade level meetings would be incredible. And we don't have that built into the calendar as far as I know. So we've worked, each school, I believe, has a proficiency-based education team, but there hasn't been too much communication amongst the teams to be able to get together and refine what we're doing and be able to express that. So that time has not been built into the calendar. Yeah.
And it seems like because you don't have that time to collaborate, perhaps you're all doing the same work and it's more work, and if we were collaborating better, we could divide and conquer.
We would love that. Yes, yes.
Thank you so much. This looks great. Thanks for my lesson for tomorrow.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Oh yeah, picture. Oh, here.
That looks awesome. Okay, right, 1, 2, 3. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was fabulous.
I heard Mr. Kwan mention that they prepared their own cards for the presentation, and what I'm finding with our kids these days is that, at least for me, and I've heard from other moms as well, is the kids, if they're going to present something that they want, they now do PowerPoints. So I got a PowerPoint about a year and a half ago about why my daughter should go to a certain camp. So doing a great job there.
Okay, moving on to non-agenda public comment. I do have 2 cards before us for that item. We have 2 speakers. The first one speaking is Tori Berghoff, and then after that we'll follow up with Justin Clark. Just for our speakers, you do have 3 minutes to speak, and you come up to the mic right here, and the clock is right over there by Ellen, and so please hold your comments to the board within those 3 minutes. So Tori Berghoff is our first speaker. Welcome. Hi. And we did receive your email, just so the board did, yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Tori Berghoff. I'm about to speak very fast. I'm here to speak to you about the interdistrict transfer process, specifically in regards to Marin School of the Arts at NHS. My daughter Josie applied to MSA this year with the hopes of beginning 9th grade in the fall. We applied for an interdistrict transfer from San Rafael to Novato. We submitted our paperwork in time and followed all protocols. Our daughter went through the process of application and interview at MSA and was accepted pending her transfer approval. However, after many weeks of frustrating attempts to understand the continued delay and doing everything in our power to assist where we could, on April 11th, we were informed that our request for her transfer was denied. This was 2.5 months after other children received their acceptance letters. 2.5 months later, we were told that the district doesn't have the resources to support her special education needs. She currently has a light 504 plan for mild inattentive ADHD. We've gone to great lengths over the last few weeks to understand what the problem is with her particular 504 plan. We know other kids with special education needs have been able to transfer. I would like to know why our daughter was not. Josie is intelligent, enthusiastic, and highly creative. The MSA experience will impact her academic development, emotional well-being, and mental health in ways that a typical high school simply cannot. We believe so strongly that attending MSA is more important to her growth than her 504 plan that we offered to revoke it on several occasions, though we shouldn't have to. We've done everything we can to attempt success for the transfer, but it feels like the rules keep changing, the process is unclear, and the system seems discriminatory. If there isn't room for kids with different needs, then transparency from the district at the beginning of the application process is essential so that parents and caregivers have a clear understanding of what obstacles they may be facing. Parents also deserve open communication about the process. How do we best set our children up for success in this confusing process? What are the criteria for deciding which special education kids get accepted or denied? Is there a wait list? What place does my child have on it? Why did it take an additional 10 weeks for us to be informed of her standing? What has happened in those 10 weeks is that our daughter is starting to lose hope in MSA, though she still really wants it, and more importantly, has lost confidence in herself. She wonders why her peers have been accepted so long ago, and yet she still has not heard. I've not yet informed her that she was declined because I'm not done fighting for her. She has been in limbo for weeks, not able to build excitement or start to make plans for her future as a high schooler. None of this is fair to her. She shouldn't be doubting her value to the school she has identified as her future home since 4th grade, just because she might need a little extra time to complete a test or a nudge to stay on task. MSA and NHS staff have demonstrated a supportive, welcoming, and inclusive environment. The interdistrict transfer process needs attention. This situation has hurt my child, and I know she isn't the only one. It is known that there is a correlation between ADHD and creatives. In a school designed for artists, it's time to find a way to provide the resources needed for children with every type of learning style. And it is imperative that the district work out ways to make the application process smoother, more transparent, and efficient. Our family has been heavily involved in supporting our public schools. We want to continue to provide that level of support at MSA and the Novato district, where involvement and support will be noticed. How can I help? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, our next speaker is Justin Clark.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Justin Clark. I'm a current student at San Marin High, and I feel like I need to address an ongoing unconstitutional issue that is being repeated year after year at Sinaloa Middle School. My 8th grade year at Sinaloa, I was brought into the administration office. There had been a minor's nude photos allegedly being circulated around by a student to countless other students with an investigation that was underway. I, with countless other students who had those pictures supposedly sent to them, were called into the administration to have our phones taken by a police officer and had them searched through. I was not read any of my rights as a student, which could have provided me with information on what I could and could not have consent to. Because I did not personally own a cell phone, the officer had made me log into my personal social media accounts without giving me an option to decline. Above all, the device I was being forced to enter my social media information on was actually the officer's personal device, meaning that he could have had, and still, maybe countless other people's information. The Nevada Police Department and the NUSD has created such a gray area within the law that has not only caused friction between the police department, the district, and the students, but it also caused enormous tension amongst the students in their daily interactions with one another. Just last year, a friend of my little brother's, who is a current 7th grader at the same school, was presented with the exact same situation, except he didn't have a cell phone. He was brought into the office, stripped of his phone, not told any of his rights, and had his device searched through entirely, including material that had nothing to do with the investigation, on top with no guardian present to defend his rights and or privacy. These types of serious investigations should already have the parents automatically involved before any student is contacted, much less pulled into an administrative office with multiple adults, creating an extremely intimidating situation for that child. So my question to this board, how long are we going to allow events like this to occur? Why aren't students being told their rights before a search like this happens? Does the Fourth Amendment not apply to students of your district? What is the district going to do in the future to prevent unlawful searches of students? And does this district understand that when a child is being taken advantage of by authority, they are then forced to question authority from then on out? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, thank you for both of our speakers for taking the time to come and speak before the board. And we have your information on the card. All right, moving on to our staff report. This is 12A. This is the Educational Workforce Housing Training Update, and our past board member, Derek Nell, is here this evening. This is the workforce housing training that Trustee Jacobson and myself and I'll let you do it, Derek. Go ahead. I don't need a. But we did our last workshop today, is what I was going to say.
That's right.
Our last, so we're here Derek's here to present.
Right. So this is a real turnaround for me. I've never actually been at the podium, so I have a newfound.
Let me just explain, Derek. Sorry, the presentation that you have up here is at your table, and it'll be uploaded tomorrow. To Agenda Online, to our Gammon Online system for everybody to view, but we're all just seeing this for the first time. There was some attachments in Gammon Online, but this is an additional presentation that Derek has put together for this evening. So.
Okay, so good evening, greetings. It's good to see you guys. We have completed our CSBA Education Workforce Housing, and I'm going to do my best to take you through the presentation, which is mostly about the training itself. So there's a lot of detail here that I'll probably be skipping over and stopping if you guys feel like you need to hear more on a particular slide. But my goal is to sort of get through it all. We have a 4-minute video as part of it, and then get to questions and answers, and hopefully talk a little bit about next steps. So I'll go ahead and get started. And basically the purpose of the training was to help school districts learn about ways to develop employee workforce housing on school district lands, and that's primarily due to a new law that was passed that made it easier for school districts to develop housing on the school district land. So that was the objective and the reason that the training was put together. It was a beta training, but first I'll stop and I'll introduce our team. So we put together myself as a former board member, President Butler, and Trustee Jacobson, and Juliet Jones, our assistant principal at Hamilton, and Francesca Wickham, our HR director for the district. So that's our team. And then what I was saying before, that there were originally 10 applicants for this beta training that CSBA was putting together with its partners, and out of the 10, 4 were selected. Nevada was one of them. And these are the cohort districts that we trained with on the 5 different sessions. The first workshop was primarily an introduction to the new housing law, but we did spend a lot of time on the reason for the state legislature moving ahead with laws that would make it easier for districts to develop housing. And that has to do with teachers recruitment, attracting and retaining quality staff. And we did spend a lot of time on learning how to collect and analyze data. We spent some time on visiting other districts and what they've done. Our first workshop was held in Los Angeles, where we were actually in a community housing that was built in partnership with the Los Angeles Unified School District. It was a fairly substantial unit, and what part of the benefits of that is it was built on a parking lot of a school next door, and as a condition of the development, the school got to keep 50 additional parking spaces, so they didn't actually lose all of the parking when they sacrificed their lot to build a fairly substantial community housing project. So getting to the reason for education workforce housing for our employees is the difficulty and the negative impact that all districts in the state are having in attracting and retaining qualified staff. And this is an example of one of the exercises we conducted, and this shows the housing costs compared to the average certificated salary here in Novato. And when you get basically the number to look at it's 67% of the income is going to rent. And it basically means that a beginning teacher or a teacher in their early years of salary earnings, it just wouldn't be able to afford to live in Novato. And we will obviously get into reasons why it's good to have teachers living in the communities that they teach. We also did an analysis on our classified employees. In this case, it's much, much worse. And it's important to point out that this housing would be for all employees of the district. I'd have to check on trustees. I'm not really sure if we're eligible. No, I'm kidding. We are not eligible. So this is the reason that we're doing this. And we're looking to do something like this. Part of the training involved us sort of putting out there, what are the goals? What did we want to learn? What did we think would help benefit Nevada Unified? We went through a list of barriers. On the right-hand column, you can see, what are the costs? What's going to be the pushback? What are the legal issues having to do with the development and the operation of housing? Are we going to have support or even interest? And then we talked about the assets to what a site that we would develop would have. And obviously, you need to have good partnerships with the community. You need to have really good design. You can do more than one property to spread things out. There's a lot of different options. Obviously, you need board support and a high level of community interest. And in our second workshop, we covered more of a community engagement. We talked about the best practices for assessing local needs and the different kinds of financing tools that a district could use to develop housing. And eventually, we take this information that we're learning how to do the research and collect the information in order to develop and create a district data profile that essentially is a 6-stage plan that takes between 5 to 7 years to complete. So there isn't any quick decision, let's go ahead and throw this up. The full process takes easily 5 years and could take up to 7 years to complete. One of the examples that we worked on in class was developing what's called a power map. This is a structure where basically you list the different stakeholders in a community and you determine their level of influence that they might have in the community based on the development of housing. And we can have you guys study this later, but basically you put them as high influencers, and then you put them on the side of the line where they either strongly would oppose or strongly favor and support development of housing. And there was also a talk around having to come up with a narrative of what it is we want to do initially, and to get the word out and to explain to the community and these stakeholders what it is we're trying to accomplish and the benefits from that. So this slide looks terrible. So that didn't work. So what I'm going to do is, before we go to that, I'm going to show you guys a video which comes from the Jefferson Union High School District down in Daly City. They're a really brave bunch of trustees and community stakeholders who stepped up to build a fairly impressive site. The team will remember they received a standing ovation from the cohort and the consultants that were in the room at the time after hearing everything they had gone through. So we want to share that with you as soon as I can figure out how to get the mouse onto that link. I think it's coming up. And I'm going to use the bookmark. And then we're going to...
The thing that's different about a Verbo vacation home, you always have the whole...
With the skyrocketing cost of living and widespread teacher shortages sweeping the nation, school districts are being forced to get creative with how they retain and recruit qualified staff. To alleviate this issue, the Jefferson Union High School District opened the district's affordable educational housing building at 705 Serramonte in the spring of 2022. One of the first in the nation, this newly constructed 122-unit apartment community is exclusively available to our faculty and staff. Our housing has been a great tool for retaining staff and recruiting from across the nation. We were challenged with what we could offer teachers, and this provides a great resource to not only retain our staff, but help them with their dreams. We take a lot of pride in that.
The main goal of the project is to reduce turnover and to make us more competitive. And how could we make it more affordable for our teachers and staff to live and work in our area so that our students can have teachers that stay year after year and can have a stable environment.
Really, with the staff housing, it just shows how devoted they are to recruiting and retaining. That alone just makes Jefferson unique because they're one of the first in the whole country.
When I heard that Jefferson High School District is building housing for teachers, that would be a great help, especially with my finances.
We wanted stability for our students. So we thought that one thing we could do is provide them with some stability of staff staying year after year.
And it's helpful because we want to be fully staffed each school year.
Oh my God, I love it. This is the best decision I made for myself. I mean, the Bay Area is so expensive. The costs are rising. It's hard to find an apartment in San Francisco unless you want to live with a roommate.
It's such a beautiful new apartment complex. I was blown away at what they were able to create.
Well, we wanted to make sure that this housing was very nice. We wanted it to be on par with any market rate development. And so making sure there were ample spaces for people to gather, spaces for children. We wanted this to be family friendly. We have a playroom, we have outdoor play structures for both young kids and older kids. And we put laundry on every floor because we knew that everyone had the same work schedule. And so we didn't want people to have to wait for a unit.
The structural design is so good. I can't hear anything. I don't hear any of my neighbors. I have my privacy, but then I also have the opportunity to connect with community too.
I think the space is so welcoming. They have a community center, a fitness room, the front desk. They're always very helpful with maintenance.
With this housing, it gives me opportunity to have an easy access to all kinds of transportation.
And with the highway being right here, I mean, the location could not have been more perfect. I get on the highway and I'm at work in 6 minutes.
Aside from being close to my job site, we also have the Serramonte Shopping Center down the street.
And even I can just walk down down the hill just to go to malls.
We have already seen benefits from the housing project. We were able to start our school year fully staffed with teachers when some of our surrounding districts weren't able to do that. The students in Jefferson Union High School District deserve everything that any other student in any other district receive, and I am hopeful that this will improve education for them.
I needed my own space, and this was an opportunity to be able to stay in the Bay Area, be close to my family, and be able to go to work.
Anyone who is looking to teach in the area and is looking for an affordable and lovely place to live, this is such a great opportunity for you.
For other districts that are considering building employee housing, I would encourage them to move forward. I think having a united board, having a union leadership that it supports the idea, and including everyone when you're making plans would be my recommendations, and I say go for it.
Visit our website to learn more about how we turn this idea into a reality.
First year.
Get out of that. So go for it. I like the way that ended. I'm going to grab my hard copy because obviously we got a font conflict problem there. That happens. It's nice to know you have a paperback. Constant Mac PC thing or something, but hopefully I have that. I think you guys were all given hard copies. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that. So I want to get back to. So this map was on financing options, and this is a very, very complicated subject because each one of these options has, positives and negatives, whether you can or can't do it. But unfortunately, what people can't see is that the team, took the different options, and this is a scale that we would raise or lower based on the likelihood of us using this option or not the option. But just for the purposes of people that can't read the slide, it's, there's state funding, there are certificates of participation, which is lending loans to government agencies like ours. You could do a bond measure, which was very unlikely. There's a public and private partnerships where you work with a private entity that puts up the capital in exchange for a return on their investment. Obviously, you can get philanthropy. There's a lending against future rental income, and then there's the sale of a surplus property, and in some cases, not here, but some school districts have very, very large reserves, which would be helpful. So those are the financing options. And then we took it to site design, and this is where we basically worked on developing skills on specific sites and trying to figure out the best way to choose a site. In the case of Novato, we don't really know what we're going to, which site we would do. I think that's going to be part of the process if we decide to move ahead. But this particular workshop was around the idea of helping us determine what site would be best and how to measure the positives and the negatives of each individual site. For example, we chose for our lesson to tear down this building that you're in and to put up a building. And this would be an example of showing how it meets the minimum requirements of AB 2295, which is the new law that sort of gives you the minimums and the maximums of moderate to low income. It has a limit on a number of units that it has to be above and below, et cetera. And in this particular case, we came up with a site that we felt could yield somewhere between 44 to 67 units. And of course, that's a range because you could have many more single bedroom apartments, or you can have more of a mix, which would reduce the total number of units. And then there's the impact on the neighborhood. Obviously, what they did down in Daly City, where housing density is much higher, something like that would never fit in Novato. So we would be looking at probably more smaller housing developments. So in this case, you end up with a range, and then depending on the site and its conditions, you'd make a determination as to how many units you could develop at that particular site. Some of the other things, this is what's called an asset map. and we lost the header again because of the font issue, but essentially, when you're picking a site for housing development, and it was mentioned on the video that the teachers, the employees that are going to live there, they'd like to be close to shopping. They'd like to be near public transportation, parks or trailheads and things along those lines. So deciding on, and it also helps you to determine the impact on the rest of the community. So these are just quick examples of what we would do to help evaluate a potential site. Workshop 4 has a lot to do about the community involvement and the community impact in going through the process. There's a number of bullets here that briefly state sort of the process and the steps you would go through, but essentially you want to have a regular, ongoing, proactive communication process in the beginning that involves input back and forth with the community about what you're going to do. Again, you're always emphasizing the reason that you're going to do it is going to benefit everybody, because if we have teachers that are committed to our district, they'll stay longer, they'll be in the district, they'll see the kids in the neighborhood, they're more likely to be participating in community events like the parade coming up on the 4th this summer. I'm just thinking a lot that there's, if our employees live in town and teach in town, I think our students are just going to do way better with that level of support from the employees. So it's important to have a lot of a lot of conversation and develop and formulate specifics to what you want to do and minimize any negative impacts that you might have. This is just a draft example. Essentially, what we're going to want to do is come out with any site we decide to analyze. Again, if we pick one site, that's one thing. If we decide to do more than one, we would develop a housing goal report, more or less, and then this, we're going to need a site mission with a vision, and we're going to want to describe the level of impact, positive and negative, as a result of that. In this particular case, it just sort of demonstrates that this site could, potentially have 80 to 100 units, which is just, again, a placeholder, because when you were looking at the earlier slide, we were only going to go 44 to 67. And then the mix is something that is hard to determine at this stage, but we would try to determine based on a survey from our employees, doing some demographic studies to make sure that we had a fairly good idea of what was going to happen in the future when it came to employees' availability. Our ability to hire and find good employees in the future is narrowing with the retirement of the baby boomers and obviously the high cost of living in Marin County. So these desired unit mix are just examples of what we would do when we came out with our plans to move ahead. This is just sort of as an opportunity to list what the desired amenities would be for the particular site. I think on the video, they mentioned how they thought about the laundry rooms. Everybody has the same work schedule, so you had to have enough machines so that when everybody was off work, they could do their laundry. And so they decided to put laundry on every floor. But that's the kind of thing that you'd want to make it a livable space for our employees, so they're obviously going to want to live there. And then you want to describe the benefits and the resources that we would get specifically for the district, which I covered a little bit when I was talking about how our students would do better if our teachers lived in town. And then finally, the community benefits that would be derived from having workforce housing here in town. This morning, we had our final workshop, so there wasn't time to get anything into the presentation, but it was a sort of a opportunity for the cohorts to put forward a presentation about how they intend to proceed, and they showed us their ideas. Two of the sites, one of the sites wasn't able to present this morning, but two of the sites have already chosen particular sites, so they have an advantage in that sense. So they were a little bit farther ahead on acreage and density studies and things along those lines. And what we did is we presented this presentation because we knew we were coming to you tonight to basically say, hey, that we've been through the training, this is what we've learned, and now it's time to talk about next steps. So this is probably the direction we should be going. We're going to need to develop, board support for housing. We're going to need to work with the board through, workshops and reports to come up with what you guys think is the right thing to do. We're going to need to designate resources and appoint and find a specific housing point person, because you need to remember that this is a 5 to 7 year process. So you're going to want someone whose job it will be to do this housing development. It's one of the things I wanted to mention is that the district has been trying or been looking at possible housing development for several years now. We found a letter to the city from 2007, and then Trustee Butler and I put together a long list going back to 2017, where we always try to do this. But the issue is that we're in the professional education business, and our employees' professions are education. So when you start to talk about housing, they're not in the housing business, and they have career plans of their own. And when you have a plan that could take 5 to 7 years, they may not be here for that entire process. So it hasn't worked, and part of this process that is sort of coming to light, it doesn't work to assign already burdened staff with extra workloads around developing housing. So it's important to have that point person in charge, and that person has some resources to order up the demographic study, do some preliminary title reports. We do have some issues we have to clear up with our title and parcels that came to light as a result of our going through this process. And then we need to do the employee surveys and correlate those surveys with some demographic research on the future of employee availability in the state of California. And hopefully that'll lead us to passing a resolution that will acknowledge the impact that the difficulty of a high-cost housing has on a district in attracting and retaining good employees. It should list the benefits of providing affordable housing, and it should direct staff to identify potential sites for development with the financing options, and then the organizational policies and the property management that goes along with the responsibility of having housing that you are providing for employees. And then after that, we would begin implementation. So now it's time for questions, but I'm happy to go back over everything. And I know I went really fast, but I don't want to take up your time, and whatever you guys want to do.
Okay, yeah. Trustee Miller and then Trustee Gass.
So Derek, thank you very much. You obviously went through this with a bunch of other school districts and you keep talking about them, but I didn't get a sense of who the actual group was. Did I miss a slide? Was that the one that was all blocked off?
So there was a total of 10 that applied, and I'm not really sure what the criteria was for acceptance. When I was board president, I filled out the survey. They conducted 2 interviews with me, and eventually came back and selected us as a cohort to be one of the 4. I think what CSBA is trying to do, this is a new law, is they're trying to find their own footing on how they should go about supporting school boards and LEAs on the development of workforce housing. So in a way, we were guinea pigs on this training session.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, Ojai had to drop out at the
unique in that you're Northern California.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir.
Okay.
Trustee Gasson?
Thank you so much for all of this and the time that you guys spent participating in these forums. I thought it was really well laid. At first, when I was reading it, I was a little confused. So it was really helpful to have you walk it. I mean,
it's confusing.
It's there's a lot of information and a lot of great detail. And 4 years ago, when I had started on the board, we actually had that great meeting with somebody that had the successful units that they were able to get their teachers to save enough money, and then they bought a house, and there was all this positive. So I love that we're looking at this again, because it's something that I would really love to see happen. And, before my I guess it won't happen before my term's over. But a couple of things to note as you were going through it, I kept waiting. I think it's in there, but not specifically said, is that the value of this, in addition to the things mentioned, is the quality of life and time. I used to work in San Rafael, and I would take me sometimes an hour and 15 minutes just to get down to Peacock Gap. And then driving home, it was a nightmare. So I had to rearrange. And so to me, an added benefit is that you will have a better quality of life because you're not sitting on a freeway, stuck in an accident somewhere or whatever. So I see that as an additional benefit to all that's been presented. One of the things that you had said actually on the last slide that I wasn't entirely clear about was you said something to the effect of a point person. So is that somebody that's actually hired by the district, or is it just a designated? I know you mentioned the staff has already got their own roles, but is that supposed to be?
I think as a result of our own experience, and I think it came to light during the training session, that the length of time and the issues that professional educators are confronted with when it comes to housing development, land use issues, that it just becomes really difficult and people throw in the towel. And without a particular point person who's representing the district on a regular ongoing basis, moving it ahead and interacting obviously the whole time, it's doomed to fail. Now, there are several grants out there. There are some nonprofits that attended one of our sessions that had a high level of interest in supporting seed funds for this type of thing, because it seems to be something that all districts are going to have to figure out a way to take care of it one way or the other, just fully contract it out, or to do as much as they can on their own. You did talk a little bit about the quality of life and so forth. I don't know, would you want to maybe tell that story we heard about how difficult one of our employees was struggling? And
I'd love to have her come and talk at some point, but at the same time as being a part of this committee, I moved schools from one side of town to the other side of town, and a combination of those two things totally reversed my thinking about what's needed in the community. So I went into this thinking single-family homes, and of course, everybody wants a single-family home. But one of these sort of unique design situations with townhomes or apartments could make a huge impact in the lives of some of our employees. And I don't want to tell this person's story because I'd like her to come and tell her own, but dealing with more classified people, I know a lot of classified people, you could saw that's 96% of their income would go to rent. And those with families, which a lot of our classified employees have families, it's almost impossible, and they're struggling. They're living either paycheck to paycheck or going into debt. And having a subsidized rent would allow them, one, to stay here and live here and raise their families here, but two, try to get ahead. And maybe at some point, get that single-family home, that might be down the line. But when you say well-being, yes, this is all about well-being, the well-being for our employees that's going to trickle down into the well-being of our students.
Trustee Mack, and then I'll go to Trustee Miller.
It's Stephanie.
Oh, it's Stephanie, thank you.
No,
Stephanie.
Oh.
We'll let our student board member go first. Yeah.
Thank you. I just had a little comment. One of my favorite teachers, my Spanish 4 teacher, she would come down last year. She would come down every single day from Santa Rosa, and she would wake up super early. I think she used to tell us she would wake up like at 5 or 4 in the morning, something like that, and come down every single day. And last year was her last year at the Novato district because she just couldn't do it anymore. It was just taking a big toll on her, driving up and down every single day. And on top of that, working for her at Novato was really stressful. So she ended up moving schools, and she was actually the reason I was going to do AP Spanish this year, but I didn't end up doing it because it was a different teacher, and I just really liked her way of teaching, and it was a real bummer that we lost her to the Santa Rosa district that was literally 5 minutes away from her house. So obviously, all of us were really, really sad in our Spanish 4 class, but we understood why she had to leave. So I think this is really important for us to try to do something about that, because I know a lot of teachers from most high schools and elementary schools would have been commuting every single day for years, and it sucks, and especially with the gas prices right now, I just think it's really important for us to try to do something about that. So yeah.
couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
I think that the issue started surfacing in Sacramento years ago. My days or my years I spent on the Joint Legislative Action Committee, where we would go to Sacramento and we would press these issues, that housing was starting to have an impact on our hiring. And it was and we weren't the only ones saying that. And so I think basically there's been a total of 41 separate laws passed over the last 2 years to help affordable housing developments. And in this particular case, it now extends on to LEAs and their ability to use their own property. But that's just really sad, in my opinion, that you missed out on that opportunity to have that great teacher. But she had to do what she had to do, and I think we can all understand that. And we live in a wonderful community, but it's just very expensive to live here.
Trustee Mack?
Thanks for putting this together. I really appreciate it, Derek. And a long time coming, more so for you than even for me. And I think I've been through 4 or 5 of these, it seems. But one thing I wanted to ask about is, because I haven't seen any mention of it, especially on this power map, is discussion about the local government, whether it's the county or the city, and how they can kind of play a role and or interfere in this process. Any thoughts? I mean, was that discussed much?
Well, the city's going to be number one partner, besides maybe the funder or philanthropy or something. But obviously, everything we do, we're going to want to be synchronizing with the city's desires to develop affordable housing. So I think we could. I know that they're very much looking forward to us getting off the ground and participating and seeing what they can do to support us.
Okay, that's good to
I'm
hear.
going to add to that briefly. One of the groups had a city employee on their group, and there's a thing called RHNA numbers, which are like regional housing requirement something. So all cities are required to have a certain number of housing units in process at any given time, and they get those numbers from the state. And so they have to have space allocated for that and development available to be approved. But it's hard to fill all those numbers. So anything that we can bring to the table, I would assume, would be greatly appreciated.
Well, yeah, to be clear, Novato's plan was rejected by the state in that regard. So
housing element.
Yeah, the housing element. So they're in the process right now of scrambling to try to fix that.
Not enough housing rejected?
Their plan was rejected as not being legitimate.
Which is not that uncommon, honestly.
No, yeah, they're along with 70% of the rest of the cities in the state. But my concern is that we have different capabilities in what we can build relative to the city by virtue of just being a school district and having the mandate of the law behind us to build this. And I'm just concerned that there's going to be some politics in blocking if we decide to go to certain locations. So anyway, I just want to put that out there. It's something that I've always been concerned about.
Well, that's the purpose of this slide, is that it's a reality. But it should be clear that the city would benefit from any numbers we develop. They would get credit for that to meet their state goals. Well, things are changing, and hopefully, if we do it right and we come up with something that fits and benefits as many people as possible, we will succeed. So,
Trustee Miller, and then Mal.
Right. There's, Derek, thank you and the other board members who have taken the time to research this. There's, in my view, it's a significant need for the community. I look back at the Tesano family and others, and the Fran Rosoff's family who will live here. The teachers lived a block down the street from the schools they taught at. They were the fabric of the community. Their spouses were on city councils or sanitary boards or some other kind of public service. Some of that's been lost in Novato, and that's sad. Hopefully we can find a way to rebuild that community sense. I wanted to go back and point out to a couple of areas where I think there's some other examples, because this is wonderful. So specifically, the Hamilton housing project that this city built 20 years ago now, I think Novato Unified School District's employees benefited by being able to participate in the housing project for that. Most of the ones they participated in were townhomes, that is to say a duplex with, looks like single-family dwelling, but they're beautiful units, and those are on the Hamilton campus, and there are teachers still living in those facilities. We participated in that, and I've heard the number, depending on who I ask, Clark, Blaisdell, or the number goes from 10 to 100 school employees have benefited from that plan in Hamilton. So that was 2,600 new homes, and there was an affordable housing component. It was shared appreciation as an economic model. North Bay Ecumenical Housing owned half the appreciation of the apartment, so when it sells, they got their investment back. The homeowner, our employee, got the other half so that they could then invest in a home. The other two models we've looked at is San Mateo Community College has done a really aggressive job of having housing for the first 5 or 7 years you teach, and then you have to move on, but it's very subsidized, so you can save a down payment for a home. And the other one is San Francisco State has teacher housing that they've built and have programs specifically for there. So there's not just Southern California examples, there's examples here in Northern California that have been successful. With the new laws and the studies that we're doing now, it seems to me we can open some more doors, but I wanted to just quickly walk through the ones that I remember that were been examples for us to talk about before, because not everybody sitting at the table was sitting here 5 years ago for those conversations.
All right, if there's no other comments for it, I want to circle back around to this next step slide, because I know the 5 of us really want to continue this work. We can't start and stop again one more time. This is such a priority, the 7 of, well, the 5 that were in the team, but now it's up to the board now. I circle back to the board, but the 5 of us, we want to continue this work and also possibly grow the group. We need to be inclusive of people in the group, but one of them being the city would be, as Trustee Mack expressed. So I don't want to just end this right here, and this is going to go into a Bolivia, yeah, it's going to go into a folder. It's going to go into my file folder at home, and my housing is about this tall now. So I want to make sure, see if there's board consensus that we continue this work, that we continue to look at housing, staff housing. And it is a long process. It's several years. It's not just something you do overnight. And that second point on there of hiring, looking at possibly hiring somebody to carry this work. We have turned this over to the superintendent. Of the 4 or 5 superintendents we've had, we've asked them to lead the charge, and they have, but it's also stopped because they've moved on. We've asked a CFO in the past to work on this. It's stopped. So we're not going to get anywhere with this important goal putting it on a current staff member now. It just will not work. We need to move to the point of, I would like to direct staff to look at hiring somebody for this, developing a job description and moving that forward. So I just want to see if there's consensus of the board to just start with those 2 things, continuing the work and moving to looking at hiring someone.
My sense is to continue the work. My sense is we have a new superintendent taking over, and that hiring process should occur under the new superintendent's leadership, because it's a 5-year plan, not a 2-month plan. Yeah.
Thank you. Trustee Pickett? Sorry.
Yeah, this is really exciting, and the question that I was going to ask is what makes this round different, since we've done this so many times, and if what we've learned is we need someone to take ownership of this project. Lessons learned, it seems really exciting, and I'm full support.
Thank you. Trustee Gasson?
President Butler?
Yes, sorry.
I just want to mention on the board cover that there is already a set aside for, there's resources for the demographic study and potentially an individual in the budget.
Well, it's not on here, but if you recall, back in we had a budget reserve, we had a reserve amount that we had to designate some funds. We designated $1 million to asset management.
Land asset management.
Yeah. So that was one of the board. We had a board discussion here.
No, I actually remember that, and that kind of goes to one of the items that was there, although I think you addressed it, the number 3. No, you were already on the slide.
Or number 3 on this next step.
Correct.
Okay.
And wondering, it sounds like maybe, did we finally get a list of all of our properties and stuff? No?
Well,
okay.
Sort of,
that's,
kind of.
That's
yeah,
like one of the first things
that's one of the first things work to be done.
Okay.
It's not in good shape right now.
Okay.
In fact, Trustee Miller brought up in the olden days, how we used to have a fairly competent set of records on all of our land assets, but that's missing, and it's in disarray. Even the county records are in poor quality filings at this point, I would describe them.
Okay, I asked for the purpose of thinking, I definitely want to move forward with this. I think I agree, no more stopping, starting, whatever. So I would be in support of continuing that on with I kind of was hoping if the sooner we get that too done, I've been hoping for something just to see everything laid out would be fabulous, if that could be one of the first things too, however, before
Yeah,
the
a
job.
board workshop of some sort would have to take, I would want to take place.
Yeah, I'm even thinking though, before we even hire someone, I don't know if there's somebody that can at least take that piece, or if it's too complicated and would need to be with somebody.
That's kind of been talked about, if that would be one of the first things, is like, clean up, what do we have, how are we gonna work with it, what is the process even gonna be?
Okay, well, we were just talking about hiring someone, so I thought before.
And that person would clean it up. They'd also facilitate these workshops and bring forward.
And-
There's a lot to consider.
Okay, and I don't know if you're staying the rest of the night, but my brother-in-law is actually coming to next weekend, so you might want to get a meeting with him. He's in housing.
Yes, well, we'll take all the free advice we can get. Unfortunately, a lot of the good advice is expensive.
Trustee Mack?
Yeah, I want to just remind everybody, at least in my time, I think we've had at least 2 workshops. I want to say 3.
Yeah,
but
probably 3.
anyway. And they're all good, great momentum, and then
Right.
but the big killer was COVID. And I think we're starting to get progress, and COVID just killed us. But anyway, with regard to timing, I tend to agree with Trustee Millerick. There should be something. This should be something for the new superintendent to have kind of complete control over, not inherit. And but to that end, I think this should be sitting right there on the agenda for the very first meeting. How's that?
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? All right, so I think staff has heard us, and we've given direction, and Trustee Nell, oh my gosh.
Well, technically,
Derek,
Right,
thank
President
you.
Butler.
Very much.
Sure.
You kind of led this group, the 5 of us, through this whole workshop, and we had a lot of homework, and you kind of took that on, and so
It's-
thank you for doing that.
I felt like I was back in school, so it was difficult. So any additional comments, or you guys? I just want to
All right.
make sure that
Thank you.
everybody on the team. Okay, so thank you, and we'll be back.
All right.
I got to figure out how to turn this on.
It turns out that public service never ends.
I'm learning that because I think I've just recently been recruited to an athletic committee of some sort, so I'll be participating on that soon. Okay. All right, thank you.
All right. Moving on into our discussion action items. This is 13A. This is approval of the AB 1200 public disclosure of proposed collective bargaining and agreement. This is our unrepresented groups, management, supervisors, and confidential.
He gets to leave.
Yeah.
You too could be in that position, Russ.
Whoa.
Okay, so this is the third and final AB 1200 that you'll see this bargaining round. It is for our unrepresented employees. The document that you see needs a little bit of qualification. I was creating it after the parcel tax passed, but to maintain consistency with the last 2, since you accumulate the cost across the 3, I kept it without the passing of the parcel tax. So that $4 million is not showing in here. So any bottom line results add $4 million to it. And the other piece is we had a last minute change, which is part of the reason you have a changed salary schedule. And it turned out the reality of payroll didn't mesh with our agreed upon outcomes, so we had to adjust a little bit, and some of the raise itself, the 5% for most employees, a little bit more for a couple of different groups, is all going in and included in here. There's some range step day changes, number of day changes, and that's structural, and that can't be effective till July 1st. I did not go back and change it. It's about $140,000 difference. This year is that much less expensive, but the future years are the same as what you see. So it was not material to the idea that basically the raises that we are providing this year are costing an extra $8 million every year, and that's what this document shows. So at this point, we'll see how the future absorbs that $8 million. But for the time shown on this form, we are able to afford it. And that's the point of doing this document, to be able to show the county that our reserves and basically our budget can withstand the raise that we agreed to with our employees.
All right, this is discussion action. This comes every time when we settle negotiations or, salary. We always get the AB 1200, so this is an action for the board to take. And just to clarify, you do not have the $4 million in that?
Correct.
Okay. Into this page,
Yes,
right?
because it
Okay.
needed to be consistent with the two
Okay.
previous.
Thank you. Trustee Gasson.
So just for people that might happen to be listening, when you said 8 million, I just want to clarify that that's over 3 years, because I started freaking
No.
out, like how.
No, that's each year.
Annual.
That's
It
each
says
year.
for 3, then what's the? Okay, I'll look at it again. It just seemed like a lot. Well, it is, but it was more than I. Well,
And
true.
the
Okay.
number showing here on the funding is just related to those unrepresented groups.
Correct.
Okay, that's what was throwing me
On the
off
cover
then.
page.
Okay.
But the totals, all
I
of the
see that.
salary increases that we've given with all groups, the total
Right.
is 8 million a year addition.
Okay, that's where I was not, because I did see the 8 million and then it said, okay, got it, thank you.
All right. Anybody want to make a motion? Or if there's any other questions, I don't want to rush it. If there is questions? No? Nobody wants to make a motion, so we won't give these raises?
I'd like to move to make these raises happen.
Second, okay. So we have first by trustee Jacobson, a second by trustee Pickus. All those in favor? 7-0 and 1 student advisory.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the next one is 13B. This is acceptance of the 21-22 Measure G Bond Independent Citizens Oversight Committee Annual Report.
Hi, everyone. So this
Hi.
is. How's
There you
that? Thank you. This is our favorite time in the Bond Facilities Department when we get to bring to you the Measure G Independent Citizens Oversight Committee's annual report. A little background here that back in November of 2016, Measure G was approved by the voters in Novato under the auspices of Proposition 39, which mandates an Independent Citizens Oversight Committee and annual audits. And this is done to ensure that bond proceeds are expended only within the ballot language of Measure G. One of the committee's legal charges is to inform the public on a regular basis concerning the expenditure of bond revenues. So to that end, I'd like to introduce Kelly Matheson, who is the chair of the ICOC, and she will present a brief overview of the annual report and answer any questions you might have.
Gonna have to raise this up.
Yeah, I know, I'm a little short.
Hello, NUSD board members. As Melissa introduced, my name is Kelly Matheson. I am a Novato resident. I am a San Marin grad, and both of my kids go to NUSD schools. My older's in 7th, my younger's in 3rd, so Sinaloa, Pleasant Valley, and Olive. As a reminder, the committee's primary responsibility is to review and report on the expenditure of taxpayer dollars, ensuring that the bond revenues are expended only for the purposes set forth in Measure G. And the ICOC has fulfilled this mandate to date by holding quarterly review meetings, including site visits and reviewing Measure G annual expenditures and audits to make sure that all of the monies are being spent appropriately. as well as reviewing the annual financial and performance audit for the period ending June 30th, 2022. And this was issued by our independent auditing firm, Christie White Associates. So you all should have this. Okay, well, good. Christie White Associates did issue an unmodified opinion, which is the best audit option that is issued, and that the financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the Measure G bond building fund of the Novato Unified School District as of June 30th, 2022. Based on this audit and the other work done by our committee, we would like to announce that the Novato Unified School District was in compliance with all requirements of Proposition 39 and Measure G for the period ending June 30th, 2022. And the full annual report and audit reports are available on the ICOC committee website pages on the district's website. And that's it. We have openings if anybody would like to join our committee.
Oh, yeah, that was one of my questions.
Yes, we have 3 committee positions open, one for an at-large member, one for a business owner member, and then one for a senior citizen member.
All right, questions from the board? If there's no other presentation,
Just thank you for your service. The community depends upon your guys' eyes. There's inherent distrust of government in general, and they look to their neighbors to look over the shoulders of the district, our shoulders and the superintendent's shoulders, to make sure that their money is being spent. And then they call you every December 10th when they're paying their taxes and ask you. So thank you very much for the service and the support to the kids of Novato. It's a bunch of work.
Right, if there's no other questions, this will be on a website, I'm assuming this will electronically be posted and.
Exactly, and also we'll, during the COVID years, we couldn't really get it distributed out to the community, and so we're going to also be doing some hard copies throughout the community.
Okay.
But in working with Leslie and her flip stack, we're going to be posting it, working with the realtors, with
Perfect.
Margaret Todd,
Yeah.
just getting it back out in the community and a lot more.
Okay.
It's a beautiful job. I think about a year ago and I look at this, what the quality that you've provided, the leadership that you've provided, and both of you. I just want to say how much I appreciate it, and I know everyone feels that same way. It's going to be wonderful to get this out to the community, to really have everyone know what's been accomplished.
And the committee has talked a lot about, as the bond program is winding down, what the end game looks like. What kind of legacy do we leave for the community as a historical point of what's been done, how we've been good guardians of their tax,
right. Absolutely.
And show what's been provided. So
be proud.
there have been some different options come up about how we can move that forward in communicating everything that's been done.
Absolutely.
So.
Well, thank you so much.
Yep.
All right, so this is an acceptance of this Oversight Committee's annual report.
I'll move acceptance thrilled to move acceptance.
First by trustee Miller, a second by trustee Mack. All those in favor? 7-0, and 1 student advisory. And we need to fill those positions, so please, let's get the word out. If any trustees know of anybody who might represent those groups, because it is a broad representation.
Mr. Nell.
Yeah.
Paging Mr. Nell.
Yeah, he didn't leave the room. That's, that may have been a mistake.
All right. And as was mentioned by Kelly, the annual audit report for this Measure G bond is our next item, which is 12.
So this is really a formality so that you can separately approve the audit itself. I do want to say that at the last ICOC meeting, the auditor came and presented to the group, and I was very impressed with the questions the committee asked the auditor. They clearly just read and understood and wanted to know more. It was really quite impressive. I've not been to a oversight committee that asks questions such as this group, so I think we're real lucky. And she pretty much described what I would have said, that the audit is flawless, and they found no problems with the process that we have in expending bond dollars.
I'll move to approve it.
All right, if there's no questions, trustee Jacobson? Oh, you're saying? Yes, yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say it's been interesting interacting with other districts through the workforce housing group, and then reflecting how our district is so very dialed in the way that they deal with compliance. And this is a really good example of that. Our bond spend people make sure that everything is done exactly the way it's supposed to be, in the best interest of our community and our students, and to the letter of the law.
That's a good thing.
Thank you for stating that. All right, so we have a first by trustee Mack and a second by trustee Jacobson to approve this Measure G bond annual audit report for 21-22. All those in favor? 7-0 and 1 student advisory.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving into item I keep saying 12. 13D, this is approval of the special education day class curriculum adoption. Grades TK and 12. You're finally up. You've been sitting there patiently. If you could introduce yourselves, that would be fantastic.
Sure. Hello, I am Chris Martinez. I'm the elementary special ed coordinator for Nevada Unified.
Good evening, I'm Kevin Goyer, and I'm the special education coordinator for secondary students, grades 6th grade and up. I'm not seeing what I want to say on the PowerPoint.
Do you want to go to the next page?
Yeah, go ahead to the next page. So the reason we're requesting the curricula is to provide instructional materials that can be modified appropriately to meet individual students' needs in our special day classes. We want to implement a systematic approach.
I'm sorry, Chris, were you talking to the microphone so the people at home can hear you?
Yes, is that better?
Oh, that is better.
All right, thank you. The reason why we're introducing and making this request is so that we can provide curriculum instruction for students in special day class. The reason we're doing this is the curricula is to provide materials that can be modified appropriately to meet individual student needs. We want to implement a systematic approach to instruction and delivery of specialized academic instruction that is consistent across all of the special day classes within our district. The curriculum will address and improve the very low performance status on the ELA and mathematics academic performance indicators as measured by the California Dashboard on Pupil Achievement. Some of the criteria that we were really looking at is the core curricula is for general education and is aligned with the California Common Core state standards and can be modified and adapted to the student needs within each special day class. One characteristic we really appreciated is the vertical alignment from TK to 12th grade and with repetition of models throughout the vertical alignment. So a similar structure going throughout, moving up. The student materials are formatted to support engagement of the learner by having less text, different types of text, different visuals that would actually support students with various learning needs that they can access the material. The math curriculum provides a comprehensive pathway of access to achieve Algebra 1 graduation status, and that is a vertical alignment as well, going from early elementary up to algebra. In September, Chris and I spoke with special day class teachers about their needs. And in October, we began speaking with publishers from McGraw-Hill, Heinemann, Fountas, and Pinnell, Globe Furon, Sonde System, Do the Math, Eureka Math Squared, and transition to algebra. In November, we were able to provide teachers some opportunities to look at and review samples and to make further recommendations. From December until January, we continued to collect teacher input. And from January until now, we've been engaging with publishers to build, edit, re-edit, and refine our orders.
So the next, fix this. The next slide shows the implementation stage. And with this graphic, you can see that if you look on the outside, you'll see secondary and middle school classrooms. And as you go towards the center, you'll see the elementary classrooms. So we're providing this support to 14 special day classes in our district. We have a generic special day class strand, a social cognition classroom strand, a moderate class, and a counseling enriched classroom strand. Our next steps. Pending NUSD board approval, we want to complete our out-of-state purchase order on or before April 28th of this year. In this summer, we anticipate the delivery and distribution of curriculum and materials to the sites. Then we're going to have professional development, which will be scheduled for the fall of 2023. Next school year, we're going to have ongoing support with publishers, special education consultants. Our recommendations. First, it's the Sunday systems. We looked at different curricula, and we wanted to look at it through the lens of special educators and special education students. So the Sunday system really addresses phonemic awareness and phonics, which are the first two components that you need in reading instruction. This curriculum, a lot of our staff has already received training on it. It includes comprehensive materials designed to help educators provide multisensory reading instruction, and it goes from grades pre-K through 8. Fountas and Pinnell. This includes the other important reading components in reading instruction, notably fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension, among others. This program includes benchmark assessments, resources, and they provide that for whole group, small group, and individual students. It also includes leveled literacy, professional development, designed for elementary and secondary, and the bonus for this is that they're designing it specifically for our district. Eureka Math Squared has a lot of subjects, as you can see on our screen. But what's most important about this is that this curriculum provides deep conceptual understanding, and it blends print with digital materials, including manipulatives. It's consistent use of models, so the format is continued through all the different grade levels, which is really important for our special needs students. There are coherent lessons that aren't visually overstimulating, and this also has professional development that's additional. So included in your packet is a quote for curriculum and materials. It doesn't include professional development right now because we're in the process of determining how to best provide and schedule the professional development, being that we have many different models from which to choose. At this point, we would like to know if the board has any questions.
Board members, questions? Trustee Pickus, no surprise.
I love the idea of a curriculum that is across the board, right? It makes things easier. We can make sure that our students are having similar experiences across the board. So thank you for putting this together. My question is around the Fountas and Pinnell curriculum. Right now in education, one of the largest conversations that's happening aside from equity is around literacy. And there's a lot of awareness around the science of literacy, and Fountas and Pinnell is at sort of the center of that debate. And districts across the country right now are getting rid of this curriculum because it's not matching the science that we have around literacy. And so a lot of the researchers, people who have been doing this work for a long time, are saying that this kind of curriculum, the assessments, the leveled literacy is not based in science, and that this kind of curriculum is the reason that we're seeing problems with our literacy in students. So I was kind of shocked to see that that's what we're looking to put our resources into. I know that we already have this curriculum in our school, and I would love to see us be having a larger conversation around literacy and consistency in curriculum. Maybe you could speak to the choice of Fountains and Pinnell, and I presume you kind of considered all the conversations that are happening right now, and why you felt like this was the right curriculum, because there's a lot of curriculums out there. What was it about this curriculum that you felt was the right pitch for Novato?
Sure. So one thing is, if you can keep in mind, we were looking at all the 5 components for good reading instruction. And again, looking at it through the lens of special education, not only the teachers, but the students. So Sonde provides our foundational skills for phonemic awareness and phonics, but we wanted another program to support the other 3 areas. And Fountas and Pinnell does do that.
Which are?
The fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. And when we were looking at this, and we also showed it to our teachers, our special education teachers, they were pleased with the program. And actually, we do like the idea of leveled literacy for our students, because we have classrooms where we have to differentiate so much, and within one classroom, we can have 4 or 5 grade levels. Being able to level it for particular groups is an advantage for us. I didn't know if you wanted to. Okay.
Sums it up.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with those ideas, because those concepts are make a lot of sense. But what we're just seeing is that the assessments and the benchmarks in Fountas and Pinnell that are being used to assess literacy are not accurate to where the students' levels actually are. So, as a teacher, I know that it's great to be able to say, here's where my student is, but all of the research is saying that curriculum is not doing it accurately. And so if that's the curriculum that we're choosing to help us assess and then provide the correct materials, it doesn't seem like it's doing the right job. And that's why districts across the country are getting rid of it. And so I have concerns that Sonne, I always mispronounce the name of that curriculum, is really great, is rooted in science. I know that is a really exemplary curriculum, but I have reservations about this particular curriculum, just because of what we are actually seeing and how it's playing out.
All right, any other questions? Trustee Jacobson?
Is there an alternative?
Okay, that was going to come out of my mouth, but
there are several alternatives. There are a lot of different curriculum we could choose. Do we have a runner-up right now? No.
I'm going to agree with you, Abby. At Fountas and Pinnell, we know what's going on with Fountas and Pinnell. The problem is that's what we have in the district right now, and this just aligns with that. I don't think there's anything out there yet. I think the science of reading is being promoted right now through Marin County Office of Education. John Carroll's making it his primary thing, and we will see a lot of publishers coming forward, and we will need to buy something. We will need to buy something else, not just for special ed, but for the district as well. And we also know about the EL component lacking. So I think your points are all very well taken. I think we don't have much of a choice right now. And I think as soon as the publishers start coming out with something, your options are to not approve that portion of it and to wait until something comes out. But how long will that be? And for the first time in a very long time, our special day classes are getting addressed, and they haven't been, and money has not been set aside for them in the past. And for me, that's a crime. And I'm sorry, I don't know why that happened. It doesn't matter why it happened, but we've got to have something for them now. So I would be able to live with this order for now, with the direction from the board to look at something that is more science-based, that we know is better for kids than what this is.
Anybody? Trustee Lametta.
Why wouldn't we be able to look for something that's like backed up by science right now. You just said that there was no runner up. I would be interested to see what the second best option would be.
One of the, can I just respond to Magali?
Yeah.
I think everybody's in that same page, and that's why all of the place, and that's why everyone is looking to do something else. The publishers haven't caught up with that because this has had such a corner on the market that that's what all districts have done. And because it's one of the most expensive products that have been in the past English language arts adoptions, that there are no other funds to do that. So the publishers have not caught up with us. So I have not looked at anything else, but I do know that that's going to be a focus for the county, and they're going to put a task force together, and they are going to be having publisher presentations, and they're going to be looking at materials. I do know that. So, I mean, the options are not simple, and you have to decide whether you want to approve the $75,000 for that as a placeholder or wait, and then the kids don't have anything. Neither is a good choice.
I appreciate that. California just held a reading summit last year, and there were some great resources. I haven't looked too deeply into these particular curriculum, but the Wit and Wisdom curriculum, CKLA, like there's a couple out there that districts are adopting. So it looks like there is curriculum, and maybe it doesn't exactly do what we want it to do. I don't know if we've looked at that, so I guess that's part A of my question. And then part B is, if we did adopt this, do we have a sense of how things are coming from the Marin County Office of Ed? Like, would we be able to say this is a placeholder for a year? Or is this like we've got this money, we're going to use it right now, and we're not going to have this money for another 4 years then? Just trying to gauge if this is a temporary placeholder, how long is it a placeholder? Because science is telling us that this is part of the problem. So it's hard, it's hard to, I hear what you're saying, and it's, so.
Are the ones that I haven't researched anything, so.
Yeah.
I know I'm just waiting. Are those for regular ed or are they for special ed?
I don't know specifically. It's a great question. I don't know. I'm looking at just there are 6 curriculum that were put forth at this reading summit. And the reading summit was Tony Thurmond, and there was it's a quality summit.
Do you have the publishers right there?
Yeah, the programs are Core Knowledge Language Arts, which I believe they call CKLA. There's one called EL Education. That's pretty generic. I can find out who made that one. Wit and Wisdom, ARC Core, Bookworms, and one's called Fish Tank ELA. So, and I haven't had a chance to look into these, but it looks like there are other programs that are being promoted in other places. So.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think what I'm hearing is we're kind of stuck in this bind.
Right.
The rest of our schools have this other program, and we should have had this for our special ed students prior. So now we're at a point where we need to make a decision about accepting something that we're already incorporated in the rest of our sites, and I think the teachers probably are more familiar with at this point too, or finding something else that may not be in alignment with where we have our general education classes. So that's how I'm kind of visioning it, is that if we do make a different choice or research that might be more appropriate, how does that align with where we're going as a district in a couple of years? Hopefully not. But I agree. I've seen a lot of the information. And what you said was a little bit more different than what I had heard. It was about the proficiency testing, or the, figuring out where they're reading. I had heard more about the phonics piece, which I was pleased to see that was incorporated, because I know the original concern was there was no phonics element to what we were, right? So so I'm at least glad we've got that fundamental piece too, and if you thought it looked good.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Would it be possible to put like a temporary pause to look at some of these other programs? Just to see if in 2 weeks one of these other programs has a special ed component. I mean, it does sound like we need to give some curriculum to our teachers who haven't had that, and that, we've been not serving our students in that way. So I appreciate this effort. But would it
We do have a timeline issue, though. because POs close at the end of the month and then we can't order anything, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what.
So that's a problem.
28. Yeah, that's what I was thinking, next steps.
That's not an insurmountable problem. The biggest problem is the funding that we're using for this has to be spent by June 30th. So it's a special COVID pot of money for special ed. Correct.
All right.
Okay, that's a little more time.
Chris or Kevin, do you have is there any ideas? You can see there's some reservation here from the board. I think collectively, Trustee Pickus brings up some great points. I understand that you've worked with our special ed teachers and this is what they selected. So you kind of think that and you're suggesting that this is the right.
I'd be happy to look more. We could look at these other options. It's doubtful that they have any special ed curriculum designed just for special needs students, but we can certainly look.
Okay, Trustee Jacobson and Trustee Millerick.
One, is this Fontes and Pinnell specific to special ed?
None of the curriculum is, because as far as I can see, no publishers make it that include core standards. What they do is the special ed curriculum is supplemental. So all the curriculum that our special day teachers use now is supplemental, not core curriculum.
I don't know what that means.
Okay, so it's not addressing our standards, and it's curriculum specifically designed for special needs students, but it's not aligned with our state standards.
So this that we're prospectively going to purchase is for special education?
It is with our state standards, and we always have to modify our curriculum.
They will always have to modify whatever we get. They're going to have to modify.
Okay, so if we picked something else and that wasn't made for special ed, we'd still also have to modify that?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't see that as a reason to say we need to go with this, personally. Two, PD. If we get something that we don't have any training on already, is that going to be a barrier to use for our teachers because we don't already have we know how to train our teachers on Fontes and Pinnell, but we might not know on something new. Is that a issue at all?
No, I think we could include the professional development.
Trustee Millerick? Oh, go ahead.
Thanks.
Trustee Jacobson.
First, Abby, thank you very much for raising this issue. I have my areas of expertise, not this area at all. So I really value your insight in looking at this. The issue to me is the one that Dr. Derby has raised, which is we've been ignoring special ed conveniently off to the side, and that's just not an acceptable solution. And we shouldn't have tolerated it then. We shouldn't tolerate it now. My concern is I don't want the great to get in the way of good. I want to make sure we do a good solution. And if this means waiting for 30 days while the staff does some evaluation, but I don't want to walk past June 30 without a solution in hand. And the idea of saying, well, we'll just make up our own curriculum is a boatload of work. That we need to work with a publisher of some kind to bring this in. And I'm sure that you're nodding yes. I think you and I see it the same way. We can't do this on our own. We need the tool. The question is, do we want to sharpen this pencil a little bit? Because is there really another alternative, or do we want to take 30 days? So today is April 15th, so we went to May 15th and made a decision. Is that still a workable solution and give us a chance to sharpen this pencil line? But we got to walk out of this year with a solution in hand for our special ed program. These teachers cannot stand in front of these kids and not deliver the goods another year. So I defer to your wisdom. And
did anybody else? Okay.
Just respond to that. I agree that we don't want to, that if we have something good, maybe we don't get great, but I'm not sure this is good. I think all of the research is telling us that this is bad for our students. And so if we say, well, we want to give something to our special ed kids, but what we're giving them we now know is bad, I think that we are now doing a greater disservice to those students. I understand that it is that it is important, not just helpful, it is important that our teachers have curriculum. I know it takes so much work to vet all of this, and so I appreciate all of the work that you and your team have done. is it feasible to say we can take a 2-week reprieve and at least do a cursory look at some of this other curriculum before we have to decide if this is our only option? Does that work with our timeline? Is that something that we can do? Because our special ed kids, they deserve a good quality curriculum, and because it is supplemental work that the teachers are doing anyway, they're going to have to do it with any curriculum. Maybe it could be a better curriculum. So is that feasible? Is that?
And I want to ask a question as well. Did you consider the Haggerty phonemic awareness and phonics for instead of this?
Instead of Sunday?
Is Sunday better than what we're just adopting for our regular ed?
That is what we've been using prior to this hopeful adoption. And the teachers really like it. So some teachers had already been trained in it, and then because of their enthusiasm, we continued with pursuing this for all of the teachers.
So is it for K? What is Sunday for? What grades?
I want to say
awareness and phonics for like K2 or whatever.
Right. It's elementary.
And let's see, Karen, can you talk? How does it compare to what we're doing for the rest of the district and the Haggerty?
I'm not as familiar with the Sunday program to really be able to speak with authority on it. I know that it
Yeah, thanks.
I'm not as familiar with the Sunday program to be able to speak with any kind of authority regarding it. I know that it has been pretty foundational in our resource rooms and in our SPED classes. And before we looked into Haggerty for our gen ed classrooms, our teachers were asking if they could please use Sunday. But I think it's typically been more utilized with special ed programs.
If I can weigh in on that, Sunday is science-based, is research-based, has great results. So there is a lot of research that says that is a great curriculum to use. So, if we're comparing, like there's a lot of stuff around that curriculum.
Would be
I'm
directing them
suggest,
to, and I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know enough about the Sunday curriculum to know what it's missing that we would need to fill in with the LP. So I can't speak to the specifics of those pieces, but the Sunday a great class, and I would support that.
Okay, sorry, Kevin. And then I'd like to move that we adopt the Sunday and the math and hold off on the other.
All right, so we have a first by Trustee Jacobson. Do we have a second? Trustee Pickus? And then I will go to public comment before I call the vote. Mr. Lenz, you're up.
I'd just like to make a brief comment. I'm an SDC teacher at Novato High School. And in comment to the Sunday learning system, that's how they pronounce it, rhymes with Monday, Sunday learning system, yes, it's well researched, but I'm also thinking about how in our purpose for buying it, is it to supplement the lack of phonics that Fountas and Pinnell is known for? So here we are spending maybe $6,000, $8,000, $9,000 to supplement an already expensive system when the Fountas and Pinnell, so it's costing more on top of an expensive system to make up for what they lack. So, and I too have looked extensively at the critiques that they've suffered in the past, and they have made some new books that address the lack of phonics and added some more in, but I'm not convinced that it's making up for that shortcoming. So I just wanted to add that in, and yes, it's not just elementary, but in special ed at the secondary level, we absolutely need something that can work with small groups. Yes, that will work, the Sunday system, but it requires then an instructional aid, and if an SDC teacher does not have an instructional aid that's really qualified to actually carry it out skillfully, that means a classroom such as mine, let's say with 18 students, that would mean groups of, let's say, 6. Well, that would require then 2 instructional aids. So at present, we have a little deficiency with the presence of instructional aides, we all know. So carrying off the effort to make such a system work cannot actually be carried out, even with the Sunday system, as much as I like it. You have to have that help, because you really need to have small groups. And it's also, I see it with the Fountas and Pinnell system, the small groups, you see them on the videos, they're 4, 5 students. I don't have just 4 or 5 students who are ambitiously participating. I've got teenagers. I've got 16, 18 of them who may not be so ambitious to be learning in a small group setting and showing off what they don't know. Okay, so and teenagers are a little more self-conscious than those 6-year-olds and 8, 9-year-olds. So I like your question. I like your comment about is this going to be usable in the SDC setting, especially at the secondary level. Those are genuine considerations. Okay, so that's all I wanted to say, and thank you.
Thank you. All right, so the motion, yes.
Should we amend?
Restate the motion.
The motion is first by trustee Jacobson, a second by trustee Pickus. This is to accept the Sunday systems for Windsor Learning and Eureka Math Squared by Great Minds, and to the Fountas and Pinnell to go back, staff to go back.
I'd actually like to amend that with that current piece of information.
Okay.
I think if we're going to look at other options, we shouldn't be grabbing the thing that's building up the thing we're not going to get. So I'd like to move change my motion.
Is there agreement with you were the first, so you want to withdraw your motion?
I do.
And does the second approve?
I
agree with that?
agree. I agree.
So we'll withdraw that motion and restate a new
I'd like to move that we approve the Eureka Math Squared by Great Minds purchase.
Okay. So
And
that's
I will second that.
Okay, so we have a first and a second to just approve the Eureka Math. And what about, and to have staff, do you want to give?
And I'd like to have staff look at alternatives in the English language learning realm. Sorry. Whatever I'm trying to say.
Use your acronyms.
Use your big words.
Okay.
Can I ask my
And then,
question?
before I call the vote, a
Yeah.
question.
My question is, are we putting a timeline on that English requirement? We want it done by the June 30 date. Is that a requirement?
Well, it is required that something's purchased by the June 30th
Right, so-
date, and we have to work within the accounting system. So as soon as we can get this back, that would be best.
So it's
and-
got to, yeah, so you're, yes, you have a time requirement in there.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you could
let
if
me
the motion would include the time requirement.
at the schedule
I'd be
real
thrilled. So it's clear what we intend.
Can I ask a question of Lois?
Yes, yes.
Lois, to place our out-of-state orders, I was told that April 28th is the deadline. Is there leeway with that?
We have a May 9th meeting.
That is a general guideline. There is always leeway.
Okay, thank you.
That was a no.
You like that answer.
That was the general no?
Yeah.
The lowest government?
That was a yes.
Oh.
Thank you. Okay, so we're good? So we have a first by trustee Jacobson, a second by trustee Pickus. This is just to accept the Eureka Math Squared by Great Minds. Staff will go back and look at the other options for the other two to see what other curriculum there is. So all those in favor? Okay, 7-0. I know that was a little painful, but we given
that's-
direction. That's
you.
just, sometimes that's just what happens with some of these items. So
That's-
thank you for listening.
Good board work. Yep, good board work. Okay, good. Thank you very much.
All right, this is 13E. This is approval of the transitional kindergarten TK curriculum adoption. Do you really want to come up here?
I do. I'm excited to be here. So thank you for having me, trustees and Dr. Derby. I am bringing you curriculum for our youngest learners. And I'm really pleased to be here because I'm representing the TK team. And they have really come together and collaborated and are so excited to be at a place to have the opportunity to do that. We are excited to bring you the Get Set for School, which is a comprehensive TK curriculum. And as I was debating coming into presenting to you, I thought, I could make a slideshow. I could bring down the many manipulatives, but then you would have been playing with them all night. So I opted just to give you the inventory list. If you've had a little one come through our schools, many of our TK teachers have been using pieces of this program. You might have seen Matman.
Yep.
Or the Handwriting Without Tears portion from the company Learning Without Tears. And as our TK team has been coming together and looking at the development of this program as we're expanding the age for our incoming learners, they were anxious to have something that they could use that would support our learners in a comprehensive way, that would be developmentally appropriate for our kids, that would offer a lot of hands-on opportunity for learning. And so a couple of our teachers this year piloted the Get Set for School program, Leslie Robertson and her team at Loma Verde and Abby Conieris at Pleasant Valley. So they came to a meeting and shared their feelings on the program, which were very positive. Based on that, we ordered samples and came back together as a group to look at the curriculum, look at what the options were for it, and compare that to what they had been using and have been using in their classrooms. They unanimously came back and said, we feel strongly about this. We feel like it is appropriate. They were very also anxious to have some continuity with what was happening in our TK classrooms across the district. So those were kind of their motivating factors and the process that they went through. As you'll see in the materials, this curriculum looks and addresses language and literacy, reading and writing, numbers and math, science and social studies, but it does it in a way that is developmentally appropriate for our TK age students. We're excited to use this in conjunction with the Heggerty phonemic awareness that has already been approved. The phonics piece for Heggerty doesn't start until kindergarten. So our TKers will be working with phonemic awareness and just building those strong foundational skills to prepare them to be successful as they embark on a long and hopefully joyous and exciting career. So with that, do you have any questions about this? Does anyone want to volunteer in our TK classrooms? Because they're going to be really
I tried the chess game, that didn't work.
Well, maybe you have to start at the beginning.
So it's all manipulatives, that's the whole, is that?
It is,
there something
it is
more to it?
supported with manipulatives. Okay. There are definitely teacher-directed lessons and activities, but with a lot of manipulative, let me say that fast, manipulative supports and discovery-based learning for our young learners.
Thank you.
Trustee Gasson.
Always happy to help in a TK class. I actually saw Janice Pack's class at Open House a couple weeks ago. So I'm thrilled about this. Love this. I have a more broad question. Mm-hmm. The bottom, it mentions the NUSD grant allocation, the $180,000. So is that how much money we just is like the pot that we have, and that this is $32,000?
Correct.
Maybe for another time, I would be interested. We've been some of the trustees have attended different events where we talk about the state of California and the requirement of TK, and I think that our district has been well positioned, much better than the rest of Marin County, and so it always comes up, and it's something that we've, been able to offer pretty easily. But I'd be curious to see, are there other things that we need? We've got the curriculum. Are there, play structures, or are there other things that we're going to need to have district-wide, some more of a global picture maybe at some point on how we're doing, and the things that we may still need to do even though we're way ahead of the game.
Yes, that would absolutely be appropriate. As we are expanding, we are already beginning to assess our facilities. The playgrounds are very specific, dependent on age, so we will be looking at that and making decisions with our facilities team on how to support those pieces of the learning experience for the kids as well. Yeah.
Trustee Jacobson?
I noticed one of the POs has Spanish materials. Could you just speak to how that gets distributed amongst the sites, or?
It actually does not get distributed amongst the sites, but one of the other things that we really liked about this program is there's a complete Spanish program. So for our dual language TK teacher, she will be able to offer her TK students the program in Spanish, which will then allow the TK teacher to collaborate with the rest of our TK team. So she was absolutely thrilled that it was an option. But for the rest of our students, while we will be using the ELD standards and there is EL support within the curriculum, it is offered in English.
I wonder if it might be worth just checking with those teachers at certain sites if they need any materials. You know, if we get like a few extra things that they can just use, since it's the same materials for some students that might need that crossover.
Any other questions, comments? Nope, okay. So this is an action item to accept this approval of the transitional kindergarten
I'll move
curriculum.
approval. I think it's great.
Okay, first by trustee Millerick, second. Trustee Gasson is a second. All those in favor?
Good.
Great, thank you,
Thank
7-0. Thanks, Karen,
And
very
I will
much.
just add, just on an informational note for you, that MCOE is, and it has been sent out to all of our teachers. They do have a summer reading institute this summer that will be very based on the science of reading principles. And so we will have teachers participating in that to work on those teaching strategies that are most impactful with whatever curriculum we are using.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
Quick question about this. Is there professional development that it needs to happen along with this curriculum? Because that, for most curriculums, there needs to be some training piece.
Absolutely. That actually is part of this. And I'm bringing it to you now. You will see me again in May. I'm bringing it to you now because they want it ordered. This team actually wants to do their PD in May. They want to start working together on the PD in May so that they can start planning over the summer as a TK team.
I love it. Great.
great.
Thank you.
Thank you for asking that. All right, we'll move on to the next item. This is 13F. This is review and approval of board policy in the 4000s. This is a first reading entitled Employee Compensation.
It's a brand-new policy. It's kind of interesting how we came about this. As Ashley was working on the attachment project, one of the big tasks was to figure out what policy different forms went to. And she had a whole pile of forms, said, Lois, I don't know where these should go. So we scoured all of our policies, and there was nothing. So we looked at Gamut and found this policy that we didn't have here in Novato. So you actually have 3 copies, one for certificated, one for classified, and one for administrators. Exactly the same wording for all 3. But what you'll see come up in a future meeting is 1, the second reading of this on consent, and then 2, we'll bring those forms forward that we'll attach to this policy.
Great. Okay, board members? Well, this will just approval of the first reading, and as Lois said, the second reading on consent.
So moved.
Okay. Okay, first by trustee Millerick, a second by trustee Mack. All those in favor? 7-0. Yeah. No, not 3 times. You have to read it 3 times. You didn't read it yet, and you approved it? No.
Yeah, man, what's wrong with you?
Okay, 13G, this is approval of board policy 5116.2, involuntary student transfers. Hi, Mike.
Good evening, trustees and Dr. Derby. I'm bringing board policy 5116.2, involuntary student transfers forward to you for a first reading. While CSBA has updated this in 2016, it is new to NUSD. The policy itself has to do with new law, SB 1343, which authorizes districts to involuntarily transfer a student who has been convicted of a specified violent felony or a misdemeanor associated with the possession of a firearm whenever the student is enrolled at the same school as the victim of the crime. In order to exercise this authority, the district is mandated to adopt policy with specified components and provide notice of the policy to parents and guardians as part of the annual parental notification. So in reviewing CSBA's policy, we are recommending approval of the board policy in the 5,000 students series as a first reading to be brought back as a second reading under consent on May 9th.
Questions about this policy? Trustee Gasson.
I think it's great. All good. Just a question about logistics of having it for the parents' review. So is that going to get uploaded to Parent Square? Or not? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay, so the full thing that when we register for the year, we sign off on all. Okay, that's great.
They
Thank
can
you.
click on a link to the policy, I'm assuming, or something like that. Yeah, okay. All right, if there's no other questions or comments, this is, again, an action item to move this to as a first reading. If anybody. Trustee Gasson as a first. Second by Trustee Jacobson. All those in favor? 7-0. All right, thanks, Mike.
You're welcome.
And you're the next one?
I am. So I'm also bringing forward to you Board Policy 6185, which has to do with Community Day School. This policy is updated to expand material related to program goals, collaboration with county offices of education and other districts in the development of a plan related to services for expelled students and program evaluation. Material and location of the Community Day School moved from AR to the board policy and clarified. So this also, just like the other board policy, would be new to NUSD. And we are looking to get board approval in the 6,000 instruction series as a first reading to be brought back forward on May 9th under consent.
Same question, board members. Any comments, questions? Okay.
I'll move approval as a first reading.
Okay. First by Trustee Millerick, second by Trustee Lametta. All those in favor? 7-0. All right. Last
thank
time.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. We will look for those on the consent for May 9th. This is our last item of the evening. This is approval of resolution number resolution number 21 for 22-23, elimination of certain specially funded positions in the classified service.
And I think it's roll call vote.
Yeah, I
Madam
got it.
President.
Thank you for the reminder. Yes, it is.
All right, so before you is a resolution that specifically is unfortunately going to be eliminating a position in the classified service, that of the COVID-19 response clerk, which is currently funded by ESSER 3 monies, which starting next year are going to have to be specifically directed to services or programs providing direct services to students and not for broader use, unfortunately. So this is a specially funded classified position. That's why I'm bringing it to you now and not earlier under that new March 15th notice law. The impacted employee would still needs to receive 60 days notice prior to the end of the school year. And so I'll have to be notifying them prior to the end of this month. So,
any questions or comments from the board? I think we've understand the reasoning around it. All right, this is an action item.
I'll move adoption.
We have a first by Trustee Millerick, second Trustee Pickus, and I will do a roll call vote. Yes,
Say
you may
something
ask
real quick.
yes.
The people who hold these positions, can we just send them some extra love? This was a really hard
Yes.
job that came out of nowhere, and we made it up as we went along, not actually, but there was a lot of stuff that went into this, so, send some love to these people.
yes, and just to make sure you're aware, my protocol is always to personally notice these impacted employees, sit down with them, have a discussion with them on the process, and make sure they understand the next steps, their rights for reemployment, anything like that. So, yeah.
Great.
And she is an exceptional employee, and hopefully, if there are other openings, she will consider those. But she took this job so seriously and made such a difference for the sites and for our office managers who were totally overworked with COVID, that it was a godsend, to be honest. Yeah.
All right, a roll call vote. Trustee Millerick?
Aye.
Trustee Pickus?
Aye.
Trustee Lametta? Trustee Gasson?
Aye.
Trustee Mack?
Aye.
Trustee Jacobson?
Aye.
Trustee Butler is aye. So that passes 7-0. All right. That is the end of our meeting this evening. And our next meeting, as I stated, is May 9th. Tomorrow we do have a special meeting with Dr. Anthony Mohammed here at 5 p.m. in the boardroom. It will be televised streaming as well. So we'll see everybody here tomorrow. This meeting's adjourned.